the leaders of the people looking at Jesus and saying, those people are sinners, and they are outside of God's love. Now imagine Jesus looking at the leaders of the people and saying, not only have I been eating with them, but I invited them to the dinner. Jesus' very life is a decisive event in the story of our humanity. Certainly for us who claim to follow Jesus, Jesus tells of a God who is in love with all humanity. In love with all humanity. There's no one outside of God's love. Not one person. We hear that reflected in the very first reading. God being reminded by Moses that God had created each and every person out of love. And that love is unconditional and has no boundaries. Now Jesus gives us a glimpse of God's way. And he absolutely turns the Pharisees' world upside down. Because God is in love with two groups of people. Despised by the leaders, the religious leaders, and the self-righteous. One was the shepherd. The shepherd was the lowest class on the totem pole. It was dirty and smelled. The next group were women. Women were the least powerful in Jesus' society, still struggling in our own society for equal pay and equal rights, right? And then to add insult to injury, he seeks out those of little value. Jesus shows us the infinite worth of one sheep and one lost coin. And Jesus tells us that God is relentless. God never gives up in searching us out. And we need to remember that in our own lives. God never gives up on any one of us. Any one of you never gives up. And so Jesus reminds us again that God's grace knows no boundaries. The Lord's mercy does not vary. God's forgiveness absolutely has no boundaries. And God's love is unconditional. We need to remember that each and every day because of our struggles and concerns that we go through in our daily life. So if we're going to do what Jesus did, we cannot be satisfied with a God who asks nothing of us. Now, tax collectors and sinners may not have a lot of meaning for us today. But maybe the Pharisees in Jesus' day would be more reasonable and accepting of a refugee trying to find a safe harbor from the Bahamas in the United States. Maybe a hooker with AIDS on the streets of Canton. How about a panhandler? Or a mother without a husband, can you imagine? Or a young man dying of a drug overdose at Altman Hospital. Or maybe even one of our co-workers here, one of our workers here in the parish, a parish who we claim believes in this God and Jesus, and we have workers working in our school and in our parish for minimum wage, and can only work 5 hours a week, so they don't go over the 999 hours in a year, because that would require of us to provide benefits and hospitalization and care. wonder what God would say about all of those. I wonder if most Christians would like Jesus if he told us to hang out with all of these people, some of these not so beautiful people. We all find ourselves in times of darkness. We can find ourselves in separation from our families. Anxiety and fear can overwhelm us. Loneliness can touch our lives, and ouch, we feel that pain every single day. It can touch us all. No one is excused. So we come here in faith. I'm presupposing that's why we're here today. But faith doesn't make God present. Faith finds God present in the stories of our lives, the stories of each of your lives, and the lives of all those people out there. Even if we are the lost sheep or the lost coin. So if we are really going to imitate Christ here at Christ the Servant, and not just be a pretender at the table, our lives should have as decisive an effect as Jesus did in his world. And so these questions I would ask you. Why is my family different because of me? Why are the relationships I have different because of me? And why is my community, why is my church, why is my country